What's going on, everybody? Tariko Satterfield here, your mental performance consultant. Y'all know all year long, you know what we're doing, having rooted conversations, and today is no different. Y'all, we have an amazing guest for you here today, and we're going to jump in and talk about performance psychology merged with faith-based principles that we can use and implement into our everyday lives as athletes, as coaches, even as people working just in this industry as a whole. We know the benefit when our spirits are sharp, and then we can have more clarity. We can live life with purpose and meaning. And so we want to have conversations that do just that. And today, y'all, without further ado, my guest is Miss Tanisha Patterson Brown is in the building. Some of y'all probably done seen her before. I saw her and she got my attention. So maybe she's getting your attention. Tanisha, what's up? So good to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to connect and talk and spread the good word.
Listen, tell me, first of all, a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do. Tell the people a little bit about you.
So I am first and foremost a chief legal strategist at my company, which is Definitive Sports Group, where I work primarily with athletes and their partners, and also women entrepreneurs, and helping them do all things off the field, figuring out what they want to do, finding their passion, and getting there. I also serve as president of Off the Field NFL Wives Association. I'm in my philanthropic season, so I always
Let's
say
go.
that
Let's go.
and building all things really with my goal of changing what it means to be a pro athlete's wife, letting people know that we do more. We focus on sisterhood, service, and support, which includes our programming, engaging in all the NFL markets. I also am a franchisee and I have my own startup brand as well.
Come on, man.
And I'm an author. But most importantly, I am a mom to my
Come
baby
on.
girl,
Come on, man.
a wife and mom, but I adore my baby girl, Banks Elise. She is my heart and soul in human form. I always say that. So that's all the things.
If you don't turn that into a t-shirt, heart and soul in human form,
She is. I say that all the time. I'm like, I really should have trademarked that.
you really need to, because I ain't gonna lie. When you said it, I was like, dang, I need to
Mhm.
step it up with how I describe my
That's
baby.
my baby. That's my baby.
I love that. It's interesting, and thank you for sharing all the hats that you wear, because I think that's a great place to start this conversation. That it's always interesting to me that when we talk about sport and we
Mhm.
talk about athletes, like there's so many conversations with athletes themselves, but never conversations like with their wives. And I'm not gonna say, I shouldn't say never, but it's like never a conversation that's centered on the
Mhm.
wives. And I literally, when I saw your post that you put up on mental health, was like, man, we're not doing that. We yes, let's bring a wife to the table. And shout out to all the NFL wives that are literally the backbone. Everybody see the players and see the people out here performing. But y'all, I just happen to know the truth that there's a whole bunch moving in the background
It's a whole lot.
that people don't know that let some of your favorite people do all the things that they do. So, Tanisha, talk to me a little bit about, for you, when it comes to the mental health that you go through. Because I always talk about this from the lens of the athlete themselves,
Mhm.
but you in your sphere and navigating and managing and doing everything that you do, how does this impact you?
That's
What is the
a loaded
impact?
question. A loaded
Yeah.
question, but you know what? My experience and what I realized as serving as president off the field and really just being a part of this community, and then taking my experience from when I engage with um younger players and my clients and how I engage. It really is, you have to have a different mindset because you're a caregiver, right?
Mhm.
You are in a sense a single mom
Mhm.
the majority, if you have children, the majority of the
Mhm.
time, but it's really operating independently from the player because you
Mhm.
understand the mindset that they have to be in order to achieve the goals and to operate at such a high capacity consistently.
Mhm.
Because if you think about someone, your intensity as a player is you're 10.
That's right.
At lowest, you're 8. You go below that, you're cut, right? And having that uncertainty all the time where You never know when you're going to like, your family's gonna be uprooted. You have the consistent energy of, "I need to be supportive, but I need to manage all these things. I'm still having life," right? Life is lifing as a
Life is life.
mom, as a wife, as a daughter, as a friend, as a human being, because we have things that are going on, in our lives as well. And so you really have to take a beat and check yourself and make sure that
Mhm.
you check in and make sure that you're okay. And a lot of times, especially when the players are active, there is no, I'm gonna check in with him and tell him that I'm struggling, or because you don't want now that weight to be shifted and he's distracted from what he's trying to do.
Right.
So a lot of times you hold it in, but this is why the sisterhood in the community is so important,
Yeah.
because at some point, one thing we know for sure is at some point, every single player is gonna be retired. Every single one. Like, we
Right.
know that. I don't care who you are,
Right.
Tom
There's
Brady
entrance
to
and
you're
exit.
part of the squad.
Right.
It doesn't matter. We all
Mhm.
know that at some point your career is going to end. And, when that time comes, a lot of times it hits you fast. And you
Right.
go from this moment where you're a single mom and you're operating in space and you have your systems in place, and then you're doing all of this, you have a routine, your day to day, and then now you throw your husband or your partner into the mix. And
Allow me to reintroduce myself, right?
yes, and a lot of times those operations and systems are operating without that person. And so when
Yeah.
they're in it and they're still trying to navigate and figure out what's next, what am I, because they're used to routines, right? They're
Mm.
used to getting up at a certain time and working out and showing up and going to meetings and do because somebody has put their schedule together.
Mhm.
It's like, how do you mesh those schedules together? How do you mold that? And then it's a huge transition from, the life of the family, or if they get traded, right? Oh my
Right.
gosh, the kids just got settled and now I got to go and move, uplift my life and move, because it's to make the choice between, do I leave my kid, like we stay here, stay behind, and now the
Right.
kids are not with the dad, and then or do I go with him, uproot the children again, and then knowing that with the long days, he's only gonna still have a couple of hours with them at a time. So
Right.
it's really it's a blessing to be a part of this 1%. Definitely
Right.
not complaining about it, because I think this
Mhm.
is a life that it's a privilege to be here, but it's also a lot that comes along with it. And
Right.
as the women, we have to, which we often forget to do, take care of ourselves and take the time that we need to really center ourselves so that we can be the best versions of ourselves for our families.
Right. I'm so happy to hear you say that because that's one of the areas for me just in my private coaching that I share with people that if you don't prioritize, everybody say self-care, but I like saying self-full,
Mm.
right? Because self-care can become selfish. Self-full, I feel me, and
Mhm.
from the overflow of me, I can serve everything else. And a lot
Mhm.
of people don't, because self-care day may not be you full,
Mhm. Yeah, it may be
right?
just because
The-
then that could become a routine, right? That
r-
becomes the routine thing where now you are going through the motions because it's just a part
yeah.
of the schedule. It's
Hmm.
not giving you what it gave you before, because now, or it also becomes a burden, right? Something that's supposed to
Come
give
on.
you peace. Now it's
Is
like, man, I
now
gotta
another
go get my hair
task.
done. I gotta
Right.
go get my nails done. I gotta, go it shouldn't be I have to go get a massage, or I gotta go to the chiropractor.
Right.
It's these are things that are like supposed to level set, but they're not.
Yeah. And I get it, right? I get it, like, that you can lose the value of you
Mhm.
when you're trying to serve everything else and all the other agendas. And in order for you to any of us find ourselves, like, it takes you to dial it back. Like, I gotta shut everything else off for a moment. I gotta pause you in order to see me.
Mhm.
We were talking about something offline about kind of being self-aware. And we were talking about how spiritually, if you look spiritually, patience, all of these things that are spiritual words, how have they helped you to see more clearly about the things you have to do? Because you just named all those things you do. And listen, I admire you because when you named them all, I was like, and that's just part of it. I know it. That ain't even
Listen,
the whole picture.
I will say this, that there is power in having a praying grandmother. And my grandmother is no longer with me, but the
Mm,
principles and the foundations that she laid in my life
mm,
frame my whole existence. Like everything, how I move, how I treat people, how I engage with things, how I operate in excellence.
mhm.
It is conditioned upon that. I see opportunity.
Yeah.
And if I like show up, my grandmother never showed up half doing anything.
Come
If
on
she was
now.
gonna show up, it was
She's
going to
showing up.
be 100%. She giving you
Mhm.
her best. And it's a pro and con to that, right? Because if you are a high achiever, you are in that space of high achievement for so long, it's not sustainable,
That's
right?
right.
For that long. But there are two moments in my life, in my beginning of my life where I feel the transition before I became a mom. My grandmother was a driving force. How can I make her proud? I understood the sacrifices that she made. My grandmother was a praying woman, very spiritually grounded, very confident in her faith. Like
Mhm.
nobody was going. I felt like she had the inner
That
circle line to
mhm.
Jesus. I was like,
Come
"You
on
talking
now.
to him?"
Come on. She had that Teflon.
She knew. I was like, she had him on speed dial.
Come on, grandma.
And she was just so confident in that, but I
Mhm.
understand it was her lived experiences. I understood life had led her to that,
Yeah.
where she understood fundamentally that we can stress, worry, do all these things, and it didn't matter, right? Because at the end of the day, if you trusted that God was going to work everything out for your good, then none
Mm.
of this stuff actually matters. And so my faith has been tremendous. Have I wavered in my faith? Absolutely. I'm a human
Yeah.
being, right? I was going through my husband and I were going through my baby journey, and I had lost my second daughter. I asked God,
So
why?
sad.
Why am I here? Right? Why are you? I did all the things right. I followed all the rules, and then before that, leading up to that, every time I had tried hard and doing something,
Mm.
I always achieved it. I'm a super high achiever. That is something I'm going to be the top of my class. I'm going to get all the awards. I'm going to be
Come on now.
president of
Come
everything.
on.
Like that's been my baseline, because my end game before I became a mom was to make my grandmother proud.
Mm.
How can I live the life that she was not able to live? My
Mm.
grandmother, dad made her quit school at fifth grade, and she
Yeah.
always wanted to get an education. So I felt like I'm gonna get all the education for you, grandma.
Mm. Come
I'm gonna
on,
go to school,
grandma.
I'm gonna get all the degrees, and I'm
Grandma,
gonna do
we
all the
going to
things.
school today. Right?
Yes, and one of my proudest moments was her seeing me graduate from law school, and I did all those things right, and that's great. But then when I got it, then it was like, what's next? And then it was the next challenge was becoming a mom, and I didn't have any idea that I was going to face the challenges that I faced, deal and endure the things that I endured. But
Mm.
the one thing I did throughout was pray. I was like, God, I need you because I don't understand.
Yeah.
And I'm asking you for understanding, and you're not giving me the answer. And I started getting frustrated. And I was like, God, I don't understand why you keep teasing me with this. And you
You know,
said, God,
I love Tanisha, I love how you said, "God, I need an answer." You ain't give me the answer. We all get to that place, right, where, "God, I need this," and you ain't talking. What's up?
I was like, God, what are we doing? This is crazy. And I was like, you told me that I got to do this, and I'm doing it, and you're not, and I felt frustrated. And I share with you that I'm an author, and I wrote through my entire journey, and I shared it publicly.
Wow.
And I had people who husbands, why, women who
Mhm.
were struggling with fertility or had suffered losses and things
Yeah.
messaging me and like, Tisha, you don't know how much that these words
Help.
meant, because I always based it on hope and faith. Like that was like the thing.
Yeah.
And they would get pregnant and have babies, and I was still over here not,
Yeah.
in that
Right,
space,
ain't
but I can't, I maintained. I was like, God, you told me
mm.
that like these were the promises, and I started to dive so deep into scripture and pull out
Come on.
these promises that you said.
Oh,
And
you
I
s
start calling
abusive.
God out. You said. And
Woo!
I realized that it wasn't necessarily about the reward, the end, right? It wasn't about the harvest.
Mm.
It was more so about the journey.
Come on.
And in that, the mother that I would have been to my first daughter that we lost would have been
Mm.
a totally different mom than who I am to my baby girl today.
Mm.
I am not that I was a terrible person, right? Because I wasn't, But my appreciation of life, my
Yeah.
appreciation of the gift that God has
Love you.
given me to be her mother. I get to raise God's child because
Mm.
she's God's child first.
That's right.
I get to be her mom. Like God said, you're special enough and I'm trusting you enough to raise this child that they've already preordained to be X,
Yeah.
right? And I've given her specific talents and specific
Mm.
abilities, and I need you to nurture those abilities. I don't
Yeah.
want you to make her something that she's not. I don't want her to live out your dreams that you felt like you didn't get to live.
Good.
There are specific things that I need you to nurture as her mother. And it was a healing for me, and it's a healing for my family to see the dynamic shift in how is who she is.
Wow.
And I know she has an essence of my grandmother.
Come on.
She is the best version of her dad and I. All of the good stuff is in her. And is she perfect? No, but I promise I couldn't have asked for a better child.
Come on
I
now.
had a smooth pregnancy that had never happened, right?
See, so he did that.
He
Look,
did
so he
he
was
answered.
listening
He listened, but it was on his timing.
on his
That
time.
was a certain I didn't have no patience before. I'm fully aware. That's the beauty about being healed, right? And
Yeah.
being someone who takes the time to really dive deep.
And
And
look
I
at
think that's
yourself.
so important. It's so important to have accountability and acknowledge that the only perfect person was Jesus himself,
Come on.
right?
Yeah.
And because of that, we have to take ownership
Yeah.
of our parts. And that also came from my therapist. Like, girl, yes, a lot of things is happening, but you also got to take ownership on your own boundaries, take
That's
ownership on your own because you're the only person
that's
that can
right.
control your mental health.
That's right.
And I went through a lot in those 5 years. I almost died, right, in those 5 years, and all these things happened, and it just shifted like, how I engage and interact with people, my appreciation of life, my game daily is when I wake up, how can I better be a better human being today?
Right.
What can I do that will make me improve, like, the quality of life for
Look
someone
at
or pour into somebody positively because my end game is heaven. All this
come
other
on.
stuff is nice
Love
to have all of these
love
accomplishments
that.
and achieve all these things,
Yeah.
but I can't take any of this stuff with me, and I don't want to worry about whether or not I'm going to heaven. I
Come
used to
on now.
think when my grandma was talking to me, she knew with certainty that she would get to heaven, and I would
Mhm.
say that to her, "I know for certain you going to heaven. You're gonna be hanging out with Jesus."
You know you gonna be sitting at
You
the table.
know. And I didn't feel that confidence, but I
Yeah.
feel now
Mm.
because me and God are like this.
Yeah.
And
Come on.
I know that all of this and everything I do, the good and the bad, is
That's right.
meant for my good. And God is using me, and I ask Him daily, use me in the capacity
Mm.
that I can be a good person. That's all
Tanisha,
I want to be.
you know, there's so much you've said right now. Like,
I know. That was a whole lot. Sorry.
no, 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 no. You said so many great things. Like one of the things you said, I want to go back to. You were talking about how when you were asking God where he was, something that came up for me is that that's a lot of people, right? That they live in that place of pause because I don't want to move without you, God, but maybe I am calling out to you and maybe I don't know what your voice sound like.
Mhm.
Right? Because if your voice don't sound like what I've painted as who you are, and you're trying to speak to me as something else, I'm not hearing that. And when you said that, I remind people if you're going to call God out, you got to call God in,
Mhm.
right? And when you call God in, then he started to show you stuff about you and you started to see you were talking to me. I
I mean, a lot
didn't
of times
know.
we don't listen. A lot of
Right.
times it's not what we want
To
it's
hear.
because it's not what we wanna hear, we'll say, "That can't be God."
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
And it's like, but why? The right here, right now, the immediacy, patience. See, this is what you gotta be careful to pray for, right? Because Imma tell you, before had my baby journey, I prayed to God. I said, "God, I pray that I have patience." And God was like, "Bet."
I got you. Get ready.
I had no idea
What I was asking for.
that in that process, like, I mean,
Mhm.
and I remember distinctly praying for patience because my husband and I were going through premarital counseling, like
Counseling.
therapy counseling. And I realized as the only child, I don't have the most patience, right? Because I'm used to just doing what I
Right.
want, right? I'm the decision maker in my own space, right? I'm not in taking in consideration anybody else because I don't have siblings. And I said, God, I'm gonna pray for patience. And then
Mm.
even throughout marriage, once we got married, I was like, I need to pray for patience because the pace in which I move is not the pace in which my husband moves, right? Even though he's a D lineman and he was a DN and he coming off the edge, right? And he's fast. In real life, that is not how he move, right?
He come off the edge quick.
He tiptoeing through life, and I'm like, Lord have mercy. And so I really had to pray. I said, God, because I don't want to be that person that
Yeah.
is, trying to get him to be at to my pace. I
Yeah.
have to be. This is the person that you sent into my life to be my husband, and therefore I need to align and be patient in a sense of everybody's not like me,
That's right.
and that's okay. It's different styles of leadership. It's different
Mm.
styles of who's going to play different roles on a team. When I was praying that prayer in that context, I had no idea that he was showing me in a whole different way of what patience was. And I had to wait. And I waited. And it was hard. And it changed me. And
Mm.
every time I look at my daughter, I know with certainty
You know
that
it's
she is God's promise. Like, there's no way. There's no justification. They told me there was a 1% chance I was gonna get pregnant. One. One. Who was and I got pregnant with her naturally after trying IVF and IUIs and having losses and having all these things. And I got pregnant with her and had the like I
1%.
said, the most uneventful pregnancy. And I was like, this is the best thing ever.
I love that. That's how God is though,
I
right?
was happy every day. Every day I was happy. I was like, "Thank
Wow.
you, God." And I woke up with intention though. Now let me do the mental health aspect of that.
Come on.
If you come from a place of trauma and you've had very traumatic things happen to you, and
Survival. Mhm.
I and if, hopefully I'm not sharing too much about this. I
No,
know
let's
I want to
let's
deter.
go.
I got pregnant with my first daughter through IVF. Got pregnant with
Mhm.
her. Her due date was May 25th, 2015.
Mhm.
I ended up losing her right before Christmas of that December. Tried IVF and all the things,
Mm.
in between. I ended up getting pregnant naturally, like, got pregnant again 2 years later to the dates, exactly.
Wow.
Due date, May 31st. Lost my daughter New Year's Eve.
Mm.
I also was fighting for my life, didn't realize it's in 2017, so
Come on.
exactly 2 years later. Once again, going through IVF, IUIs, nothing's working. I
Yep.
lost my grandmother in between and my only prayer was to God was, "I just want my grandma to see me as a mom." That's what I wanted, and it didn't happen. I was devastated, crushed, all
Mm.
these things. But in that process of all going through all of that, and when I finally got pregnant with my daughter, I was, like, scared, admittedly,
Mm.
because I had never made it past,
A certain point.
a
Yeah.
certain point, and
Threshold.
I had to bury two of her sisters. So I was like, I gotta
Mhm.
wake up with intention every
Come on.
day. Every day. Every day I woke up and I knew that I had anxiety. I knew I was, you
Mhm.
know, having, this worry, right?
Yeah.
So how do I combat that? I would say to myself, I wake up in the morning and say, I am not losing my baby today. God is going to deliver his promise. I'm going to have a happy and healthy baby.
Wow. Come on.
And I said that every single day from the moment that I found out I was pregnant until I gave birth. I said it I woke up every single day with intention. And that's where I really truly understand the power of manifestation and the power of faith. Because if I would have woke up
Mm.
and worried myself to like what's gonna be, right? But
Yeah. Yeah.
I genuinely believe that in order for her to be happy,
Come on.
mama gotta be
Mama
happy.
got it.
And I was so intentional because I was like, no, we're not. Devils, you not about to distract me and have me out here believing and scared. And I was like, no. And then as I got closer to December, I knew that there was going to be a probability of that angst and that
Yeah.
anxiety, which I still feel. Even 10 years later, I still
Yeah,
have
that
that
makes
angst
sense.
that comes, right?
Yeah.
But I was very intentional
Mhm.
about managing that mental health for me.
That is so good. That is so good because a lot of people think that mental health means that you got it all together.
Yeah, no.
And that's not what mental health is. Like, it is a continuum. And so everybody's trying to be absent from problems or absent from anxiety, absent from doubt, absent from no, that's not the goal. The goal is to give yourself the tools so when they come visit, you
Mhm.
got something to feed it.
Absolutely.
If
'Cause,
Imma
like,
be if you gonna come over, I prepared something for you to eat.
that part. I always say it's more like, you know how when your auntie is like, when she gets 70
Mhm,
and
mhm.
she just don't care? It's I don't know.
I
It's lit.
love
She
it.
just freely, she's just like,
Yeah,
"Doo doo doo,"
and whatever.
whatever,
Yeah,
like,
mhm.
and I
No
always
filter.
think old people, older people, like you
Mhm.
hit that 70 plus, you give 0 cares. And toddlers, like, and puppies,
Toddlers
they
and
live
old
the
people.
best life. And I'm like, why they living this life? We over here stressing ourselves out, worrying about stuff that because they just don't, they have no cares in the world because they understand fundamentally what is going it's going what
It's
be is
gonna
going to
be what
be.
it's gonna
And that's
be.
just where yeah.
And this is so great. I just had this conversation yesterday with somebody talking about the intimacy that most of us, the way we craft intimacy, we miss that it's not absent of pain. It's not
Mm,
absent of problems. It's not absent, but we've so painted a narrative or identity with it that when that stuff happens, right, we caught off guard, like you said.
mhm.
But the truth of the matter is the pain is just a part of your processing through your intimacy, and you do gotta get intimate in your pain. Intimacy means into me you see, which means I don't only want you to see this good about me, because if you just
Mhm.
see this good about me, you don't see me.
Mhm.
If you don't see those flaws and accept those flaws, then that means that you just married one side. And I'm
And
not
that's not realistic.
not realistic 'cause I don't
No.
wake up like this every day. However, here's what I wanna ask you. You mentioned your grandma, you've mentioned your baby, your angel, and you've mentioned, like, the hardship. My question for you is, when you look at all that you've accomplished, and I love this because you hadn't even talked about what you do more than you're sharing who you are in what you've done. And and
Mhm.
and I appreciate you so much for highlighting that part because we could go into all of the credentials, right? And all the credentials that you have, but I feel like we're losing value inside because we building and ascribing so much value to the things that are outside, like the credentials, right? Things that
Mhm.
are attached to our names, not our name. I'm Tanisha. I'm Tariko. And when we
Mhm.
get so distant from that part of ourselves, no wonder we all struggle. Because if I become Reverend Doctor, Pastor, all that, who is all that?
Mhm.
All that is a title.
It doesn't matter. And I think if we and I don't wanna skip beyond your question, so I definitely want you to ask the question.
No, no, no. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think I wasn't always here. Let me be clear. I don't wanna make it seem as if,
Mhm,
like, I was always together because I wasn't.
mhm,
I didn't have a voice in a sense of had clear clarity beyond I knew that I wanted to achieve a certain amount, have a certain amount of degrees because I was
mhm,
channeling my focus was and my motivation was my grandmother, right?
mhm.
And what I can achieve. So once I hit that marker, like I said, it was like, oh shoot, what's next? I became a lawyer and I was kind of like floating through because my husband was still playing. And so I knew that I couldn't get too grounded into something
Mhm.
because if he had to go and there was like a moment where it was, I gotta go, right? Or I gotta be here to support. He was playing. We had just opened our stores and it was a lot. And I was like, I can't be state like stuck in one rooted in one place because I knew that it was not a long time that he had to play regardless of what was gonna happen,
Yeah.
right? So I knew I could be a lawyer forever, right? That
Right.
was,
Right.
I had my degree. As long as I stay, active in the bar, I'm good.
Bar up.
And so for me, I became what I was doing, right? So I
Right.
was just like, I'm here. I always knew that my baseline and my core and what I liked. I was always a fun friend, the fun
Mhm.
person, the humorous thing. But I really didn't know and could say with certainty if somebody asked me, Tanisha, who are you?
Who are you?
Right. It took really when I was postpartum and I had an extreme amount of postpartum anxiety and I was going through therapy
Mhm.
about that. My therapist asked me, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm sorry, I was just trying to make sure that wasn't my daughter's school, but
Absolutely.
who are you? And I first thing out of my mouth was, I'm a lawyer, I'm this, and then they're like, no, 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 no.
Who are you?
Who are you? And it took a minute for me to really say, well, man, what do I like and what I don't like?
Yeah.
Because especially if you're a wife and a mom, you often get absorbed into even defining yourself as a mom, right? Like, but you're not. Because, I mean, you are a mom. That's one of the jobs that you do, right? But that's not who you are.
Right.
And I really had to take a beat and say, Tanisha, if you had to provide characteristics of yourself, what would you be able to define and what is important to you? And
Mhm.
I think outside of the roles that, I play, if you strip all of that away, who am I? And I think a lot of times women, we do this quite often that we become the roles. Our whole lives just become the roles
Yeah.
that we play in everybody else's life and
Mhm.
not necessarily if you ask them who you are, if you
Right.
had to describe yourself, how would you describe yourself? Then
Mhm.
if you had to say what you like and what you don't like, a lot of them can't even
And
say.
do it. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
my confidence in being rooted in who I am is really been a more recent thing of me. And it is so
Wow.
freeing to be acknowledged. I don't actually like that. I'm just doing it because I felt like I should be doing it,
There
right?
you go. That's good.
Or, I think the biggest thing is finding what is your talent. Somebody, I can't remember who said it, but somebody said, God gives every single one of us a gift.
That's it. That's it.
It's just that you taking the time to figure out and discover what that
What
gift
any
is.
gift is.
And it's whatever that gift is, it will be the thing that will make you the money, will
Come
get
on.
the
Everything
all the
context.
and it'll be so easy for you to
Yeah.
operate in that purpose. And where we struggle is when we trying to operate and do something else that is outside of our gift because
Yeah.
we feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bible says your gift makes room for you and brings you before great men. And I
Mhm.
often tell people, even when I was working in education, a lot of what we see in the world is that people try to force people into a box that
Mhm.
is outside of their giftedness. And so if you try to push a fish onto ground, it's going to die. But if you put it in water, you will see it operate in its gift, right?
Mm,
Its best version. And many times, Tanisha, it's because so many people have been taught like going to school is about becoming what the one percenters are. I'm for
yeah.
real. That's everybody's agenda. Like you got to get to the 1%. And what it
Yeah.
should be is, no, you got to unpack your gift because your gift, whether it's 1% or
Mhm.
10%, you'll be at 10% and in a purposeful place, a
Mhm.
whole lot bigger than somebody who you might ascribe to the 1% that actually feel purposeless
And empty,
and
right?
empty and empty. They could be living a reality that seems to be, right?
Mhm.
Everything that you want, except the joy, except
Mhm.
the peace, except, as you said, I'm gonna go back to your favorite word, patience.
None. I mean, and I think it also within our community, it's a big thing because
Mhm,
people want you if you reach the status of being a professional athlete and then
mhm.
you're a high performing professional athlete, right? It's like the energy is well, you should just be grateful that you are this. And your family should be grateful that you get to make millions and millions of
Hey,
dollars. And it's like, but it's so many wealthy people who are
yes,
miserable
miserable.
and they're unhappy because the money is not solving and the fame is not solving the inner issue.
It's not going to.
If you are not foundationally strong and confident in who you are, or if you feel you're not being seen or heard in a way that is
Mhm.
truly who you are, you have those scenarios where you have like the child stars who are like, man, I've been living just my life the way people told me to live, and I never was able to operate in my own capacity. I
Right.
mean, even players where you are told you need to be this particular way. You
Yeah.
can't be an artist. Like,
Right,
you can't, I
right,
mean, now they're more accepting of the player as a whole person to a certain degree. Now, let's be real. It's
right, to a certain
to a certain
degree.
point. But like you trying to be a artist or an entrepreneur while you playing, no, you need to focus. This is all you got to do. You need to
Don't get
play
distracted
football,
by
and
the
that's what
music.
you're doing. Don't get distracted. That's a distraction.
Right,
And it's unfortunate because when you live like that, then that means you're stifling who you are and what you can
right.
achieve, and you feel broken. And I think a lot of times the women feel that way when you do make that choice to put your life on hold, but you
Yeah.
also want to have that level of appreciation and acknowledgement. You want to
Mhm.
be seen.
That's
You
it.
want to be heard, and you want to feel as if that sacrifice, because that's exactly what it is.
You know,
Because
whew,
yes,
listen,
that
Tanisha,
sacrifice is value.
you onto something right there. You're onto something because what I hear you saying is, and I told my, pastor a few days ago, I said, "Man, I used to fight you so much on this wholeness idea." I used to be like, "Ain't nobody whole, ain't nobody whole, ain't nobody whole. I hear what you're saying, but ain't nobody whole."
Mhm.
And then I went through my own obstacles throughout my life, and after I finally learned, I was like, "Wait a minute. You had all these obstacles because of where you were unhealed,
Mhm.
which means that you actually couldn't be intentional
Mhm.
because you were living from pieces of yourself and not the full identity, full acceptance." And what I hear you saying is any of us can go into a marriage, you can go into the league, you can go into parenting, you can go into pain, you can go into anxiety, frustration,
Mhm.
and what you start to recognize in these spaces and places when you get intimate in them is, man, there is something that I need that I don't have. But
Mhm.
when I pause and start looking, like you said, when I pause and I step back and I go to therapy, most of us like, right? When this thing
Yes.
tear me down so much to the lowest part of myself,
You gotta break it down.
you gotta break it. Didn't we grow up hearing that song, "Break It Down"? Like, you gotta break it down.
It's I think what's really hard,
Mhm.
and I will not diminish this in any capacity, it's really hard to look at yourself as a flawed person.
Yeah.
It takes,
Woo!
we're all told that we gotta be super confident and all these things, but I think
Yeah.
the way that God opens up opportunities,
Come on.
opens up healing and space is if you are vulnerable. When you acknowledge
When you broke.
that
Yeah.
one, you are broken, two, that you don't have all the answers,
Right, I
right?
need
Because
your
like
answer.
who has all the
Right.
answers? Nobody has all that. But I think it's also when you're in a space where you are always ready to grow. You're always ready to learn more and never put yourself in a space where like I'm good, because really and truly
Mhm.
are we, like we're never at that point where we don't need God, right? Where we don't need, advising or coaching, because even if somebody doesn't have their life together in a certain capacity, you may learn something from that
From
person,
that
from
part.
their
That's good.
experience, and you can't just say, well, that person didn't go to college or that person never had this, because they may have had a lived experience that
Come on.
helped them, and God may be using that person to speak to you and,
Absolutely.
and give a word. And I think sometimes we diminish that and we dismiss
Absolutely.
it. But I don't care how many lessons, how many coaching classes you take, how many moments that you take, even in your prayer sessions or Bible say, if you are not receptive
Come on.
and open yourself up to receive the
Receive.
message,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter because if you have this pride, right, of
Right.
like,
Come
no,
on.
I'm not going to do this,
Come on.
then, or I'm good, and I think a lot of times players in particular, it doesn't matter how old they are, what
That's
generation they
right.
play,
That's right.
the struggles are still the same, is that you defined yourself by a thing.
Right.
You
Mm,
hit a road, like a bump in that thing,
mm.
and now you gonna try to figure it out and make it work. If you look at somebody like Tom Brady, who had complete and utter control of his career until he didn't,
Until he
right?
do not.
And then when he didn't, then it was like, shoot,
Right.
something shifted. His
Mm,
family shifted. It
mhm.
became where you're making decisions based off of what you feel
Feel.
and not based off of how the ripple effect
Mm.
impacts towards your whole family. And I
It
think
can't
if
be
you
disciplined
operate,
anymore.
you can't. You lose the very thing that your drive and focus of, man, now this is all playing out to the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you look at, and I'm using Tom Brady for example, not to, say anything bad about him as a person or his family, because I don't
Yeah.
know the inner workings of that, right? I'm only using him as an example because he is somebody who people view as such an elite athlete,
Right.
right?
Right.
And in that complex of he's the standard, right? When people are trying, especially in the football world,
Yeah.
he has all these Super Bowls and he's a
Mhm.
standard. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And in modern day time
Yeah.
standard. And if you look at somebody like that, they still had less control of their career as they got older.
Right.
As time went on and the younger guys are coming, and you look at somebody like LeBron, it's the same thing, right?
Mhm.
LeBron has a lot less power than he had before because
Right.
now the impact in the bottom line is different. And so I think the players themselves, what I wish in this
Mhm.
mental health component is that act like a golfer
Mm. Yeah.
because golfers understand the natural transitions that will happen. They
That's
are
right.
blessed because they have the senior tour, right?
Right.
So they
Come
can
on.
keep playing golf as long. I'm just doing something that's a hobby of mine. I'm really, really good at this,
Right.
but it's not my whole self. Like, it's not the only thing that I am. And I think
Yeah.
if the players get to, and I'm using NFL players, for example, if
Mhm.
you get to a point where I am just doing this for a season in my life,
Right.
and recognizing at some point this season is going to be over because you can't be
Right.
45 getting tackled.
That's
Like, that's
right.
just not
That's
realistic.
right. You can't, Tanisha? Say it
I
again.
mean, you
Tell me,
can, but I
'cause
mean,
I'm hitting 45 this year, and
I'm just saying,
I
like,
can't go
the
sign up.
bones are not bones, and like they're
They're not.
just
They're
you can go
not.
play flag football. I mean, but I think that's where flag football is going to help, where a lot of players still want to
Absolutely.
be a part of the game, but no kind like that's great. And
It
I mean,
creates
I have a
that.
vested interest in flag football. But I think it's just if you recognize that it's a season in your life, and when that
Yeah.
season is over, it doesn't mean that's the end of you, right?
Right.
That's
Right.
just the end
Right.
of that particular season that you were doing that job.
Right. You know, I love the way you talk, because the way you talk, literally what you're saying is that you're so much more than where you are. Watch this though, at all times.
Mhm.
Like, it's actually not just about you in athletics, it's you as a student, like, you as a baby, you
Mhm.
as a mother, you as a father, you and your problems, right? You and your struggles, you and your weaknesses. You're so much more than any circumstance. And what I heard you describe is when ego has to sit at the table with humility,
Mhm.
will you get into relationship with humility, right? Or will you
Mhm.
walk away from the table with your ego and leave humility at the table? Because the longer you walk away from that table with humility, humility is just going to sit at the table and wait on you to come back.
That part.
It
Because humility has patience,
humility,
right? Humility has
exactly,
all of the attributes
all the
that
attributes.
all of the good attributes that will lead you to success. Not saying that you won't be successful if you operate in ego, right? Because we
Right.
understand that that happens. But I think it's a difference between how do you define success
That's
and the
it.
difference between success and happiness, right? Like, are
Amen.
you happy? How do you measure success? Is
Right.
it I'm super rich or I have all these things
Mhm.
or is it I'm happy and content
Come on.
with wherever I am.
Man, look,
And
did I please God?
yes, I mean, ego and pride lead to destruction.
That's what it
The
said.
timeline is not set, right? But it will ultimately lead to that because you can't operate in that space,
Yeah,
right? And also say in the same vein that you want to operate in God's purpose.
come on. Listen, Tanisha, there is such a flow in this conversation that when God when God starts to infiltrate our
Mhm.
lives, it's almost like what happens for you is you begin to see the evidence that you had all along.
Mm,
I'm serious, like, cause so many of us, you almost have turned your back on the evidence. Some things you called pain was actually evidence you were living.
mhm,
Right? Because once you become self-aware, you're able to see the seasons that you went, the things that you went through, and it make you keep describing your angel. You say, I lost too.
mhm.
Ooh, but the gift of that one.
Oh my gosh. I will go through that a million times over
Woo!
to get my baby. And I say that with absolute certainty. I would do that all over again if I could be in this season with her and be in this because what I know for sure, and I always refer to Job in the Bible, right?
Come
It
on.
was like, you can take all these things away from me, but I'm still going to be
I'm still
faithful
going. Mm,
because I know that I will be restored. And for me, I look at all there anytime I question where I am in my life, and yes, I say like, "Oh my gosh, God, like what's going on?" But then I think about it, man, my life could be horrible. It could be way worse. And
right.
so I have to check myself when I'm having those moments and use those tools that I've learned of just kind of regulating my
Mhm.
nervous system and taking the time that I need and not being so putting words of I have anxiety, right? Instead of saying
Mm.
that, like, no, I'm anxious about
Anxious.
this situation.
Right.
I'm not
Right. I don't
I'm
have
not
it.
putting that on
Right.
myself, right?
Right.
But also being a sponge and forever a student. I
Forever.
love to learn, and Imma always be a student.
Listen, I always tell people when we understand what education is, I
Oh, wait,
always
I
do this.
lost you. I can't oh, there it goes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I
Can
can
you
hear
hear
you
me?
now. Yes.
So
Yes.
when we talk about education, I always used to do this thing. I traveled around for 15 years speaking in schools, and I would test the staff. I would be like, y'all want me to give your teachers a test? And they say, all the students would be like, yeah, 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 in the auditorium. Who can give me the definition of education?
Mhm.
And they all Tanisha would be like, nobody would say nothing. I'd be like, yo, wait a minute. Nobody knows the definition of the word education.
Now you gonna have me Googling it. I don't know the definition of education.
And I always tell people to challenge people in academia to give
Mhm.
you a definition, but you will see that most people, we've been indoctrinated to the idea of education.
Mhm.
Right? But when you ask, what is the actual definition? And I would say to a student, I'd be like, let me tell you what it is. And I would say to them, it means to draw out or bring forth.
Mhm.
And they like, what? Everybody I would whisper to would be like, that's what it means?
I
Yeah,
mean, because you wouldn't think that, right?
right. Everybody would say it means going to school. But I'm like, no, it means how does the information that I am teaching you
Mhm.
go in you. And here's why your gift is important because you're not educated until it touches that gift, Tanisha.
That part.
And watch this it ain't just touching the gift, it's when it touches your gift, do you have the wisdom to now extract it
Mhm.
and walk in your purpose? And so a lot of people find themselves in motherhood without being educated,
Mhm.
a husband without being educated
Mhm.
because you don't know the gift of it.
Mhm.
You don't know the gift of it, but what I see in you, even in describing what you've gone through and where you've arrived at today, you said, I understand the opportunity and the purpose that I have now every day. When I look at that little
Mhm.
girl, I get it. I've been gifted the opportunity
Absolutely.
to love her. I've been gifted the opportunity to serve. I've been gifted this opportunity. You like, the light done came on for me?
Oh, I was like, "Thank you. Thank you, Lord. I appreciate it."
Won't he do it?
She teaches me so much, and I know that
Right.
God uses her to speak to me because sometimes she'll just, like, shock me, right?
Come
With
on.
wise beyond her years, and I have to be super present about that and
Mm.
make sure that I don't stifle that with
Yeah.
her. But I'll say this, I encourage because I know we running out of time,
Yeah,
but
yeah, 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 yeah.
I say I encourage everybody
Mhm.
to operate at your own pace. Don't feel as if you gotta
Look.
be somewhere at this point because you feel like on Instagram or on
Yeah.
TikTok, people are in this particular space.
Do you?
Do you, but be open to do different things and not necessarily
Mm,
fit the what you feel like the norm
mm.
is. And being just genuinely authentic and vulnerable, and you
Yeah.
never know who you will meet, who you will engage, interact with, who you will bless, right?
Come on.
I always say that my gift that God gave me was I have the ability. I have two gifts that are operate in alignment with each other. The first one is I have the ability to speak life into people.
Come on.
God shows me when I'm talking to people sometimes as they're talking, I can listen to what they're saying, and then he gives me the ability to see the vision of what they're trying to do. And
Mm.
then now I start throwing out stuff that
Yeah.
is like, wait, oh, you should do this and you should this. Oh, let me connect you to this part. And it just flows
Yeah.
easy. It's not hard for me. And that's how I know that I'm operating in my gift because it just happens. And
Yeah.
what I learned is to move when God is telling me to move.
Come on
If
now.
he is telling me to speak to that person, to touch that person, to engage with them, then I do it. And even if it's they turn me down or they're not receiving at
Right.
that moment, it may be something that resonates with them
Later.
10, 15 years down
Yeah.
the road. And so that to me is I've always been able to speak life into people when I say like, no, you tell me your dream. I'm the one person, you tell me your dream, I'm gonna tell you how to get there, right? Like
Come
that's
on now.
like
I love it.
I would never shoot anybody down.
Yeah.
And then also vision. I'm a visionary.
Come on.
I mean, God just be sprinkling stuff on my life and will say, I need you to do X.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I will do that and operate and put all the connecting pieces together. And he gives me a strategy for that vision. And that's a new I've tapped into to where, but it also required me to trust myself.
That's
It
it.
required me to trust what God was telling me and
Mm.
not hesitate and also not to consult. Because sometimes when you tell people your vision
That ain't ready.
and they ain't ready to receive it and or they're not meant to go on the journey
Come on.
with you.
Come on. That's right.
And I have to really say to myself, sometimes I got to build it
Yeah.
first, then share.
Come on.
Because
Absolutely.
sometimes when you're trying to bring everybody with you, they weren't meant to go with
That's
you.
right. Come on. Come on, Abraham.
And listen to God when he's like, I told you.
Told you. Right.
And I give God credit in the instances when I know I'm like, God told me. He tried to block me from he's like, but then now you gotta
Yeah.
suffer the consequences because you didn't listen with your 2 ears.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's like, so I will say just it's a beautiful thing to operate in your purpose. It is a beautiful thing to take the time to be patient with yourself. Love yourself first because you
Come on.
can't love anybody else. I love my baby. She my heart and soul in human form, but I have to really love Tanisha
Yeah.
before I can give her the whole part of me, right? But also trusting that God gave us all the talent. He gave us all a gift.
Come
And
on.
if we just take the time to
Mm.
love on ourselves,
Yeah.
focus on him, and really just try to be good human beings,
That's
everything
right.
works out
It
for your
works.
good.
It
It
works.
just works out all the time. And I'll share one thing with you before we end. I had just lost my second daughter, and I was in the gym, and this man walked up to me. I had never seen this man before, like ever.
Mhm.
I had gone to the gym faithfully. That was like my healing. I would go to the gym, listen to TD Jakes, and I would just, oh Lord, please get me
Clear it
there. I
out,
would listen to
right?
my old school gospel because I was trying to channel all of that. And this man comes up to me, I'm on the treadmill. He told me he was like 81 at the time.
Mhm.
He was an older black man, comes up and he said, I don't know what's going on with your life, but God told me to tell you this. Don't give permanent space to temporary situations. And then he just said, I was like, oh my gosh, and then he's like, I'm 81 years old, and that's the best lesson I've ever learned in my life. And
Mm.
that's how I live my life every day. Now you have a great day. Walked off. Never saw this man ever again.
God sent an angel.
Never saw him again.
Mm. Mm.
But to think that we often give permanent space to temporary
Temporary.
situations and we think, oh my God, it's the end of the world. It's
Right.
going to end. And it's like, but did you die?
Did you die? Ooh.
I'm
Yo,
just saying,
that
and it's,
that question is so powerful you just asked, "Did you die?"
did you
You
die?
thought
It was
it was
the
over,
end. You thought it was, oh,
and
it's
you still
horrible.
going.
And it's
Right.
like, it could have been horrible.
Right.
But it was like, let's look at it in a sense
Mm.
of,
Did you
you're
die?
so much stronger. You're so much smarter. That lesson means so much more. You have way more tolerance. Now you have awareness. Now
Right.
you know to listen to God instead of just being like, let me focus on this other thing. And
Mm.
it's preparation and it's maturity and it's all the things. And so for all those athlete families and husbands, listen to your wives, we be knowing. We be knowing. Okay.
I like how you thought it dropped that plug.
I'm just saying.
My wife gonna love that. She gonna say, "Baby, you heard what she said."
I'm just saying, listen to your wives. We be knowing, okay? Because
Amen.
we are a vessel that God uses.
Absolutely.
We are a part of Mother Earth, and you got to trust that process. And I'm not saying all of us, but I'm just
Absolutely.
saying,
Right.
the ones who
Right.
are in tune and healed.
But I agree with you. I remember having a conversation with my aunt, who's my uncle, who's my pastor, and I asked her just recently, I said, they've been married 30 something years, and I said to her, I said, "Auntie," I said, "Just I want some advice, from you on what's your advice to me as a husband, like,
Hmm.
going through this marriage thing? What's something that you wish my uncle would have done better? Even him being a pastor and being somebody that you trust to lead you." And she said, "Listen more."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Really?" And she was like, "Well, yeah." She was like, "Oh, you think that just because he's leading everybody and preaching and teaching, that I don't want him to hear me more?" He said, "He always be trying to preach and teach at home too."
I mean, I think the intuition, the discernment,
That's it.
the nurturing,
Yeah.
the care.
Yeah.
Their praying grandmothers come from praying women. Like, we
Come
grow
on.
up to be that,
That's right.
right? We don't just appear,
Yeah.
And so it is very much a complete picture, and sometimes we as women can see things that our
We
husbands
can see.
cannot see.
That's right.
We see it, especially even when the devil is disguised as something, when the enemy is coming and we can see it, and God gives us that ability to see it. I think the role of a wife is so important, and that's
Mhm.
why God says, "He who finds a good wife finds a good thing," right? Because
Mm.
when you have someone that has your front, back, side, and all the
Right.
things, caring for you and covering you, most importantly in prayer, you are invincible. You can achieve anything. If you have a wife at home or a
Mhm.
partner that is praying for you,
You
that is covering you while you are out there doing what you love, I mean, you got the best thing since sliced bread.
come on now. Come on now.
And so I think a lot of times, and I've seen it, and even in my clients who ultimately ended up in divorce, right? They
Mhm.
always regret it, because in a season where they felt their uncertainty, they
Yeah.
felt like they were finding certainty by being by themselves, not recognizing that the enemy's design was to isolate you so that
Right.
they can control your mind. So if you are isolated from the person who is supporting you and you're
Protect you.
like, no, or pushing you and challenging you. Now, it's the difference between a toxic situation. This is not
Right.
what I'm
We're not
talking about.
talking
I'm
about that.
talking about when you are removing yourself from a situation because it's hard right now,
Right.
and
And
you see that person as the enemy instead
I've
of
heard that
out of love.
several times. I've heard that from friends, from people who said, "Hey, I thought
Mhm.
this was gonna be the best case scenario for me, but it's not."
Mhm. Sometimes you just need to take a beat. Just
Right.
take a moment and don't make a rash decision that's going to impact not just you, but your whole
Yeah,
family,
the whole family.
the children, and
You
it's
preaching right now.
I'm just saying, I don't hold myself as a relationship expert, but what I do know is that I listen, I don't need to do stuff myself to learn from others, and I am just very in tune to, like, I'm super tolerant,
Yeah,
and
that's beautiful.
I'm an empath, and I
Yeah,
understand that you gotta love people where they are. Not saying you gotta tolerate shenanigans, but
right.
you
You gotta
have
love 'em where they
to
are.
have a bigger purpose of why are we doing this?
Listen, that's capacity,
Mhm.
and that's being what we call in my company rooted in greatness. Like a lot of people think that rooted is related to outcomes, but roots actually fight through the dark.
Mhm.
It's what's buried. It's not what's above the ground.
Yeah, I wanna focus on all that. I
Yeah,
wanna connect because the roots are the ones that get to the water, to the river, to the spirit. That's where I wanna be in that.
yeah,
And I'm okay with people not knowing. For me, it's not about me being in the forefront of everything.
yeah.
I am perfectly fine being in the background creating change.
It's
Cause
such
like
a
whether it's
blessing.
one person or 10,000 girls or
Come
a
on.
million people, I want to impact millions, but I don't need to be,
Right, I ain't gotta be
you know what I
face.
mean? I ain't
I
gotta
ain't
be
gotta be
all
the
that,
face lady.
right?
Right.
Cause I'm good. I'm good. I would rather serve in my purpose. And the people who know.
That's
And
right.
people create scenarios in their mind of what they feel like I am based off of what
Right.
they see and what they
Enjoy.
think they see. And, I'm like, okay, sure. That's how you feel. But my wholeness as a person and who I know I am and how I engage with people on a day to day,
It's who that grandma was praying about.
that part.
Listen, where can people find you? Because I can assure you that from this conversation, women all over the world, probably some men, gonna be like, "This woman."
I hope. Come on, support come, let's volunteer together.
Let's volunteer together.
Let's volunteer. Let's pour life into people and
Yeah.
and do all that. Let's be good people, right? Let's just hang out. Let's have a dance party to benefit some kids. Like, let's do that. Like,
Come
let's
on,
let's be
let's
happy.
do it. Where can I get your book?
So they can purchase my book,
Hmm?
Faith, Friendship, and Fertility, online at Amazon. And I co-authored that with two of my good friends, one NFL wife, and the other one is she is my sorority sister, and we co-authored that
Come
book
on now.
together.
Let's go, team.
Yes.
So, and please tell them again where they can find you, where they can locate you on social medias, because I'm sure people gonna want to follow you. They want to hear more. I know y'all want to hear more because I want to have more conversation.
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at tpatbrown. I'm also on LinkedIn, which is where I share most of our wins and all the things that we're doing in the community and work in the NFL families. I'm on LinkedIn at Tanisha Patterson Brown Esquire, and then also on Facebook. But it's really much the same thing on Instagram that I share from there. But you can also reach out to me on my business website, which is definitivesportsgroup.com.
Listen, thank you so much for being here and this time. I know people are going to be blessed from this. I can't wait to talk to you again. That's all I can say. I can't wait to do this again. Any way we can support all the initiatives and the things that you're a part of. Just know that we're here to serve as well. And we thank you for your time today.
Thank you. I've enjoyed myself. It's been a true blessing, and I appreciate God's presence always.
Amen.
So thank you.
You're very welcome.